a rather lengthy title, I will just say that this is about the draft Bangsamoro Basic Law in its version as it has been transmitted to the Houses of Congress executive. For the record, I would like to Jose, also from Tinuay Justice and Government ni Kamal et Erumane Uvu. I hope I Babylon. Good morning. From the Mindanao Indigenous Peoples Peace Forum, Potanan Colmo. From the Vice Chairman of the Externado, Sufonetti, Mr. Art. Yes, we have the North of Royal Sharif, Habib Mujahab Hashim. Good morning. Royal House of Patikul, Sultanate of Sulu, Sultan Venisar Julkarnain, Janal Abirin. Princess Jasel Kiram Hassan, Attorney Michael Mastura of the Sultanate of Maguindanao, who is here to assist us. Sultan Ibrahim Bajin. Sultan, good morning. Sultan Muedzul Lail Kiram. G. Chavez. Yes, you were just, okay. Melchor G. Chavez. Doc. Attorney. Royal House of Maharaja Tabunaway Datu Lim. Royal House of Maharaja Tabunaway Datu Lim. Royal Highness Putri by Marieta Nor Aisha P. Mandalaw Adam Al-Hajj. Nor Aisha P. Mandalaw Adam Al-Hajj. Oh, ma'am, you're there. Datu sa Taviran of Maguindanao Sultanate, Engineer Datu Noldin Oyod. Organization Alternate of the Sulu Archipelago, Datil Don Kiram. Tabunaway of Mindanao Darussalam, President CEO of MTDCPI, Royal Highness Putri by Marieta Nor Aisha Tabunaway of Mindanao Darussalam, President CEO of MTDCPI, Royal Highness Bidin, and indigenous people left out process and after habitants. We have been through the you have given us, but hear from the different issues that you feel need to be ventilated about the draft BBL. So, Princess Kiram, if you would.
Your Honor, if I may.
Yes, sir.
The original.
Well, in 19, the status of the Sultan of Sulu became to maintain his trust to GPH, or the Philippine Government Constitution, since the Commonwealth era and the post-Third Philippine Republic, and until today remains peaceful and law-abiding. Of the two, was in 1999 of 1998 as the BB in the absence of massive consultation, sense of political justice, inclusive and without due regard to the historic sovereignty of the two sultanates. The MILF-led BBL reminds also the Tausug people in Basilan, Sulu and Tawi-Tawi of the creation of the Bureau. The BBL reminds also the Tausug people in Basilan, Tawi-Tawi of the creation of the Bureau of Tribe present, being treated second-class ever law to the Philippines in spite against its will. Despite a period of 90 years, from 1935 to 2015, the ancient territories decolonized beings, traditional government, and the more than of Sulu. Upon the outbreak of the Mindanao, Philippine and Moro secessionists of the Sultanate, all his and indigenous the Christian Basilan, Sulu, and Tawi-Tawi are being addressed. The basic reason to see as is Chinese Chronicle recognized 6 vital concerns of the Sultanate Sulu needing massive consultations. First, the change of the historic name of Sulusi to Bangsamoro water. The Sultanate's historic constituents, the historians, the academe, and other stakeholders in the provinces of Sulu Archipelago were not consulted in order to achieve common interests, mutual agreement, and transparency of the MILF intention in relation to leaders failed to satisfy to the historic of the areas and the diversities of customs and traditions in the Bangsamoro Assembly in order to prevent the political patronage. Fourth concern is Article 8 also, Section 2 of the BBL, which emphasizes the appointment as the Sultan or King as
In 2010, also the Sultanate of Sulu submitted a letter, an official letter to UPAP, which unfortunately in 2013, at the height of the, likewise, with this official letter also of Highness Sultan Zaman, reiterating the late bureaucratic, the Sultanate of Sulu in the ongoing peace talks in Kuala time. So, the response, Your Honors, to the query by this honorable committee is that yes, the Sultanate of Sulu submitted.
It sounds to me like it was a consultation were not actually implemented during the negotiations. Am I correct, sir?
Yes, Your Honor.
Which consultation were not actually implemented during the negotiations. Correct, sir?
Yes, Your Honor.
Which it's just to the question you said, OPAP not consult with any of the sultanates. How is it that something wide-ranging, as important, as profound, how
Thank you, Mr. I'd like to express one person, which led to the recognition the need to find a just, lasting political solution to the problem in Mindanao should be through negotiation within the context of Philippine sovereignty and territorial integrity. Now, the way towards the coming out of an autonomous region has two contexts. First, the negotiation context, which was premised on the Benghazi Resolution and captured by Resolution 18 of the ICF in 1974, and two, legislation. The direction of the President to the panel has always been to negotiate with both narrow fronts within the context of the Constitution, and of course, recognizing historical significance or the experience of the past. Necessarily, in the course of the negotiation with the MILF, the negotiation was not just for the MILF.
I'm sorry, you said you have to answer my question.
Yeah, I will answer. In fact, when
I think they're answerable by yes or no.
Yes,
Were the sultanates represented during your negotiations with MILF, in the signing of the resulted in those?
First, there was a chairman.
It's very easy.
To all the people in our area, necessarily include the sultanates.
Participation, consultation from all, for that matter, from the IP.
Mr. Chairman, we should like to put it into context. This is a negotiation, but in the negotiation, Mr. Chairman,
there is no context that explains the idea when you have not included the royal houses, the
participation of the royalty, the MNLF, and the others will be brought together because the Constitution, in fact, provides that in the crafting of that.
No, you said in the negotiations that you undertook, there were two panels. Am I correct?
Yes.
What was that government panel? What was it called?
This is the government. I think during the negotiation, from the MILF, we have a representative. I think the Sultanate was representative. We have a Sultanate representative there in the. But in the government of the
Sorry, I you. The Princess Kiram, Josel, sorry. Princess Josel Kiram was the one who made the presentation for the Sultan of Sulu, and I am afraid that she contradicts what you are saying, Yusek Lorena. And then with that, I would acknowledge Senator Escudero.
Maraming salamat po. May kilaman po to, Mr. Chairman. Yusek, tanong ko lang po, sino po ba nag-MILF ang tatayong kinatawan Bangsamoro? In other words, sino po ang nagsabi at humirang sa MILF na sila ang para sa lahat ho?
There was a declaration by the Organization of Islamic Conference that the MNLF then won, who was the sole and legitimate representative of the Bangsamoro. But after
ng armas ang MNLF dahil nakipagkasundo sa gobyerno, tinuro din ho ba ng OIC na MILF ang kausapin niyo?
the negotiation for autonomy started in 1974, as I said. And that is the
MNLF ang kakatawan sa Bangsamoro noong 1970s. Ganun po ba yan? Yes, sir. Ngayon, nung mas marami ng armas, presumably, at yung MILF na ng gugulo, sabi ng OIC, MILF na ang kausapin nyo.
1967, there was a continuation of the negotiation after the negotiation with the MILF.
Sino nga po nagsabing MILF ang kausapin nyo?
Well, but that's the reality on the ground, and I think the government made that initiative to negotiate with the MILF because they also represent the other half of Tomorrow Front.
Let me unbundle yung definition po ng reality on the ground. Hindi po ba ang definition ng reality on the ground, sila ang may pinakamalaking puwersa, armas at tao na nanggugulo sa Mindanao noong mga panahong yon? At anong dokumento nagsasabi, nagbigay po ba ng special power of... Do they, at anong dokumento nagbigay po ba ng...
Yusek Lorena, kahit hindi SPA, isang sulat man lang, designation na sinasabi kayo na ang mag-represent sa amin sa usapan ninyo sa OPAP.
From my experience of
Alam natin na si Chairman sa OPAP.
from my experience of
Alam natin na si Chairman Datuk.
when I was with the MNLF negotiating with the government, we have conducted several Bangsamoro congresses. In that congresses, resolutions were passed endorsing the articulation of the fronts. In the MILF, there were also congresses conducted, or congresses. In that congresses, resolutions were passed endorsing the articulation of the fronts. In the MILF, there were also congresses conducted.
Dito?
I cannot answer, Mr. Chairman, that whether they have been invited by the Moro Fronts.
But, sir,
usually, there is always a Bangsamoro Congress.
Hindi ho ba
I cannot answer, Mr. Chairman, that whether they have been invited by the Moro Fronts.
But, sir,
usually, there is always a Bangsamoro Congress.
But sir, negosyador, lahat ang mga
Constitution and appropriately in order
hindi pwedeng baguhin. Anong konsultasyon pa ang gagawin kung ang consultation, particular na pagbanggit sa IPHIN? Anong konsultasyon pa ang gagawin? As is, where is? Hanggang nung isang gabi sa mga okay na, baguhin na natin, ganito na. Hindi sana ganito. Ang posisyon, as is, biglang bukas kayo sa pagbabago na may konsulta. Biglang umami, parte na namin. Dapat sana sa parte nyo, nagawa na rin ang problema eh. At
given from that time.
ganun, dapat sana sa parte nyo, nagawa na rin ho yung...
If it was accepted that OPAP was stonewalling on where as is or it is, but I think there is a recognition legislation. It was accepted that OPAP was stonewalling on where as have certain review of the proposed amendment by the Bangsamoro Transition Commission.
Mr. Kong, at kung yung panig ba nila ay napakinggan ng MILF man o ng OPAP o GRP, para for the record, Mr. Chairman, hindi na natin kailangan tanungin ng isa-isa pa. Tapusin ko lang po, sir. Ng magiging posisyon po natin sa refer to the letter addressed, if I'm not mistaken, to Mr. Iqbal, presented in one of our hearings, Mr. Chairman, to contradict Yusek Lorena's position, kung saan sinasabi po ng sulat na yon na nung humarap ang gobyerno, ang pagkakaunawa ni Ginoong Iqbal at ng MILF, ang kausap nila ay buong gobyerno, kabilang na ang Korte Suprema, pati na rin ang Kongreso. Kaya nga po ang posisyon nila, hindi namin pwedeng baguhin na rin yun eh. Sa mahabang panahon, ho, hindi ho ito misinterpretation, ha? Quotes po ito na nanggagaling mismo mula sa tagapagsalita ng pamahalaan, mula sa OPAP at sa GRP. I yield, Mr. Chairman. I think an invited guest or resource person.
Thank you, Senator Escudero. Just as a point of information, and to put more detail into the discussion, in the meeting that we had with the Secretary General Hamidi of OIC, he very specifically mentioned over and over again that the MNLF is the body that they recognize, and the body, the MNLF, had not been consulted in any of the negotiations or in any of the discussions that led up to the drafting of the BBL. Hence, that puts spade, I'm sorry, Yusek Lorena, that puts spade to your assertion that these consultations occurred. The position paper that has been read to us clearly also states that the Sultanate of Sulu, despite all of their efforts to involve themselves in this peace process, were ignored. And it seems to be that that is the same situation with all of the sultanates, with all the IPs, with the local government units, with the MNLF, and that is why we are conducting these hearings, to try and make up for that shortcoming in the process that was undertaken by the OPAP. Essentially, Yusek Lorena, we are doing your job for you. We are doing your work for you. This is something that you should have done during the process of negotiation, so that when you presented the BBL to Congress, then that version of the BBL incorporated into it all of the views, opinions, suggestions from all of the stakeholders. And I cannot think of any larger or more important stakeholders in the process than the sultanates. And having said that, I would like now to turn over the floor to Congressman Mike Mastura, who has some interventions to introduce.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, thank you very much. With your permission, I want to put on record, I cannot in conscience leave this room without putting on record that this is about negotiation and transformation of that negotiation for conflict resolution. So the authority that the Honorable Senator Escudero is asking is not on the basis of appointment or election or nomination, but he was right in the premise that it is the armed group, in other words, the non-state actors who are negotiating.
The armed group, not the arm, as in ARM.
No, armed
group.
A-R-M-E-D.
Right. ARMED, just
Right.
to be clear, Congressman.
ARMED, non-state actors negotiating. Now, maybe, if you will allow me a little more time, the first negotiation was undertaken under your own father. This was the AAA agreement of 1976. I want to say this, that Senator Escudero, I was an undersecretary together with your father at the time. The inputs that I can say is that the result of the 1996 agreement converted to domestic law is an unfinished business. So that is why MNLF, led by Chairman Miswari, still goes to OIC. The other consideration is, why is MILF taken into the picture? Because they are also with superior arms fighting the government, and it is the duty of government precisely to deal with these security problems. And so, former President Fidel V. Ramos, a cousin of former President Ferdinand E. Marcos, I'm a historian, so I would know this. The General Ramos, when he became president, reached out to the MILF, reached out to Chairman Hasim Salamat. And that is where I came into the picture. I left Congress. He talked to me to help, and I sat on the panel. And for 17 years, Your Honors, I left government. I remain as a citizen, but I served this nation through being a counterpart in that negotiation. A lawyer living, there are no lawyers in the jungle, according to your father. So he wanted me to return to Congress. I said, no more. Salamat has invited me to the panel. And anyway, it brings us to the point that we are still at it. There are two documents now, the FAB and then the CAB. And that is where BBL is leading us to. I want to correct the impression that BBL is not a product of that negotiation. The draft, I mean. It is a product of appointees of the President of the Philippines, appointees of President Aquino in that BTC. So it is a partnership between government and nominees of the MILF. The negotiation, we take back seats because this is about legislation. That is why, with your permission, because I did not anymore wait for you to call me as a resource person, I have two documents, and I have written your secretariat, and I submitted them, and it is for your disposal, and I hope that it will be read. For the record, it is for documentation of my stand, and they are very specific on the question you asked me at private dinner. You want me to explain asymmetry or asymmetrical relation. Let me go back to the point so that is. So there is no authority on the part of the MILF to say, people, we want to negotiate in your behalf. So with MNLF under Nur Miswari. But because it is now under international law, both are lawyers, so there is a law of peace agreement, Lex Pacificatoria. So this should not be treated, Mr. Senator, Your Honor Escudero, as plain domestic concerns. It involves what I call the existence of international dimension. And that's why I did not go to the House of Representatives. I have a standing invitation. I preferred to come to you. You are sorry for not coming during the Mama Sapano investigation. I did not feel like being a military man, so I did not come. So now I'm here as a lawyer, as a former congressman, as a scholar. Now, the idea is to produce a law that will, is it to supplant the Organic Act? The title itself is very misleading. That's why it is to abolish the autonomous region. I don't think we can abolish the autonomous region because it is a constitutional provision, you know. In other words, arm. Therefore, technically, what we should do is to revise the Organic Act. So the title itself, normally a law, I have been a legislator, a law talks about its title only after all the provisions are discussed and approved. But here I am because it is important to know the purpose of the law. The purpose of the law is to revise. Like the Constitution, it's either you amend or you revise. In this case, it is a total overhaul of Organic Act, the original. I was still a member of Congress when we passed 6734, and as amended, this is also a response of government to the MNLF's demands. Therefore, the law amending 6734, which is 1954, is an expanded Organic Act. So it always referred to the law and what Congress does with the law. It's never abolishing the autonomous regions. So in short, we should address the transitional aspect of this. Therefore, revision would be more proper, like we would revise the Constitution if it is entirely overhauled. And thus, we can set up a structure. So it will be setting up a new structure and governance, of course. That's why you can shift from one form or structure of government. But there is a doctrine of what we call act of exception. This is also my research in other conflict areas, namely in, for example, Åland in Finland, and even Bougainville. Then the question will be addressed on whether we would need a constitutional charter as reported already by the Honorable Miriam Defensor. I have read the report and I cite it in the position paper that I submitted to you. But I don't want to be carried with this, Mr. Senator. The authority you're asking, the third party, this is the third part. So when the war was declared by the Estrada administration, came to an end, then the next administration, the Arroyo administration, took up and picked up the reaching out of President Ramos, and President Arroyo went to a state visit in Malaysia and asked for a third-party facilitation. That is where former Prime Minister Mahathir came to the picture, and the agreement on that state visit was that the Philippines will form a panel. At the time, GRP was used, not GPH, and that on the part of Salamat as chairman, he would form a panel. It is important also, Mr. Senator, that we refer to the letter of Salamat, the Chairman Salamat, to the U.S. President George Bush. For more than 100 years, this would be the first time that the Bangsamoro, the Moros, would have a direct conversation with the highest authority of the government of the United States. And that is why the treaty mentioned and referred to by Dayang Giselle Kiram is important. Okay, this is no intervention. The late Salamat did not mean that the U.S. will intervene. I appeared in the WikiLeaks. I think there are not very many people. I don't know if I should be proud or be ashamed of that. For that reason, because of that dinner, now the only reason why this letter was written, and it is officially responded to by the State Department, and this response was that the Bangsamoro people have legitimate grievances. But the reason behind the correspondence between MILF's Chairman Salamat and the U.S. State Department was to see to it that MILF will not be put in the list of terrorist, international terrorist organization. I think that is important because that makes the distinction in foreign policy and domestic policy. So I will probably end up here, but later on, allow me to intervene why the sultanates, why this tradition, because this is a vindication of a neglected policy on what to do with the sultanate. Despite claims of territories, there is no real policy addressing the traditional institutions that we have. The sultanates are not moribund. What we lost is power because of governance, republican system. What we still own and have, I belong to the direct bloodline of Sultan Kudarat, therefore the Sultan of Maguindanao. What we have not lost is influence, and that is why we are here. But I want to have an advice also in dealing with this. This is what I promise you, Mr. Chairman, Senator Marcos, to help you sort this out. I advise that those claiming sultanates should go back to our genealogy, our tarsila. Then we will help government settle our seemingly unending internecine classes along clans level. Then we would not bother government. Where you can help us, Mr. Senator, your committees, Peace and Senator Ginguna is not here, the chairman, in reconciliation, is look at our treaties, series of treaties, look at our status, because the last treaty, Carpenter Agreement, mentioned that the Sultan of Sulu would be the head of the Mohammedan Church. Again, in these days, Senator Chis, this is politically incorrect. We are not Mohammedans. We are Muslims. And so there is no church also. So I do not want to be Cardinal Tagles counterpart.
We are wandering into, we have wandered into the details of the historical perspective, though very important. Unfortunately, we simply do not have the time.
Yes, thank you very much.
Pursue
then
it in that great detail.
Mr. Chairman, just a brief...
Yes, Senator Escudero.
I thank Congressman Mastura for his inputs, but really, SPA appointment and authorization was a figure of speech, if only to highlight the fact that these people were not consulted. Tanggap at alam ko po na sila ay mas may pinakamaraming armas, kaya nga nandito ho kami ngayon. Ang batas ginagawa para pangalagaan na sino, being a legislator yourself. Ang batas ginagawa para pangalagaan ng interes ng minoriya. Hindi para pangalagaan ng interes ng mayoriya at dati ng malakas na maraming armas. Andito ho kami para pangalagaan yung interes na hindi kayang paglaban yung interes nila. And at the end of the day, whether it's MILF, OPAP, GPH, they should have still talked to all of these minorities and minority groups. Pakinggan man lang sila, hindi man nalagay sa batas, hindi man nalagay sa bill. Ang importante, nabigyan sila ng pagkakataon marinig na tila hindi ho lubusang nagawa to the contentment of the people we have here before us. Hence the long hearings of Senator Marcos until this afternoon. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Senator Escudero. Yes, we can anticipate that, certainly. But it is, long as they may be, lengthy as they might be, they are to me obviously necessary, and that is why we are conducting them, despite the importunings of members in the executive that we just ignore some of these sectors and just pass the bill and don't bother studying it too hard. Basta pasa na lang para na lang matapos na. Hindi namin matanggap-tanggap na ganyan ang aming katungkulan sa mga naglukluk sa amin dito sa mga posisyon namin. And that is why we are conducting these hearings. So, thank you for the presentation that was given us from the Sultanate of Sulu. The issues that were raised are issues that have been raised before, most specifically in our hearings in Hulo, wherein many of these points were made. The point that the non-recognition of the historical background of the Sultanate of Sulu, that is reflected in the desire in the BBL, that is expressed in the BBL, of changing Sulu Sea into the Bangsamoro waters, because that is precisely something that is unacceptable, simply because it is incorrect and inaccurate and does not have an eye to historical realities. The issue of the Wali is also something that has been raised, and it is something that has been explained to us again in the hearings in Hulo, that the Wali represents the Sultan, and there is no need to appoint a Wali if the Sultan is available to do at least the ceremonial duties, and that is one of the contentious issues. The the organization of the Parliament and the division between voting and appointed seats of 60 to 40 is also something that has been seen as problematic. I think that is more or less the point that is made, except further to mention the fact that the tribal or delineations of the Tausugs in the Sultanate of Sulu must also be recognized and have not been recognized. So
is allowed and given the privilege to participate on Senate Bill 240 or the proposed Bangsamoro Basic Law. I would like to inform the body that there was before a question who endorsed, if there was the Sultan or the Bangsamoro Basic Law. And allow me to state the reasons why we support the Bangsamoro Basic Law. Number one, for the drafting autonomous region in Muslim Mindanao back in 1987, and for the has not fully achieved and exercised genuine political and fiscal autonomy. Hopefully, it can be realized with the establishment of for the drafting of the Organic Act of back in 1987. Unfortunately, ARM has not fully achieved and exercised genuine and fiscal autonomy. Hopefully, it can be realized with to aid as an affirmative action for justice and the good quality of BBL. But that can be done an affirmative action for justice and BBL. Together in this historic opportunity for brothers and sisters. Kayo pong brothers and sisters who have this monumental role, who have this kamit ng matagal ng hangat, matagal ng hako sa Morobisic of the BBL. Of MILF combatants as partners for peace and security. The MILF has committed vision. They shall transform into civilian fully their combatant Bangsamoro. We hope that our brothers and sisters in MILF will see the light of their struggle with the passage of BBL that shall benefit all sectors in the country. The leaders of MILF are just tired of war and constitution in Mindanao in recognition of the distinct history. We trust that everyone did the diligent review on the BBL provisions. Malacanang, the MILF and the esteemed lawmakers at the House and your good official one in ensuring national BBL, and the Supreme Court has yet to weigh in on the issue. Emanate legislative process into a process which law can emanate from the people, whom sovereignty emanates according to democratic principles. Legislators are elected by us constituents. We, Bangsamoro, are wide roles for the royal houses of Mindanao and Sulu in the formulation and furthermore, the Royal Sultanate of Mindanao and Sulu as an acknowledged and continuing local leadership since time immemorial in accordance with the Territorial, the ancient laws, and ijma, the traditional practices of Moro people. These laws and practices existed in pre-Hispanic time since 14th century. President Gloria Macapagal Arroyo issued the executive Senate has unquestionable legitimate partner of the provincial city and Senate has unquestionable in Mindanao has begun. Number 2, for the enactment of Malolo, we propose the revival of the defunct Commission on National Integration to provide more funds and benefits for in Mindanao has begun. Number 2, we propose the revival of the defunct Commission on National Integration to provide more funds and benefits for indigent Filipino Muslims to have now as hydropower resource. It has now as hydropower resource. All of Lanao del Sur experience a scantily benefit from its revenues. In the draft BBL, the future Bangsamoro government, the authority, Lanao in the province.
Why do you make this recommendation? Recognition has not been made?
I have read the, not the but of the draft Bangsamoro Basic Law, but of the other leading sultans of Lanao and the other place, that they should be clothed with authority, if it is possible, under this draft BBL, to be a partner of the municipal, provincial, and city administrators.
So during the negotiations of OPAP and the MILF, were you able to make this recommendation to them?
No, because there is no invitation for us to join or participate in
so
the discussion.
despite yes, so I see. So you were not given the opportunity to consult in those negotiations, and therefore you are taking the opportunity now
Yes.
At this hearing to make the recommendation. Given the opportunity to consult in those negotiations, and therefore you are taking the opportunity now.
Yes.
Accelerated development of what's left behind. And that is Real Manila seems to fit this situation particularly well.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, you know, this special benefit brothers and sisters during the time and administration of your late father, Ferdinand E. Marcos.
Thank you. That is why that too, I am still of the opinion that even the most perfect of banks of the most
Ferdinand E. Marcos.
Thank you. That's of the opinion being felt by other Philippines. And the third is another issue that has been raised before is now. We are having to resolve the position that as a part of the Bangsamoro, shall we say, the dominion, and that there be greater benefits of the progress and the share, shall we say, the discussions. Thank you now for the position paper of the royalty of Bayang and Pagayawan. The position paper, we move on, which we have been on the representative of the Sultanate League of the Philippines, Sultan Rico Attorney Pelandok. Are you ready with your presentation?
Yes, Your Honors.
Sultan Attorney Rico S. Pelandok, please.
Thank you. Good era. 16 royal houses in of Mindanao, particularly of Maguindanao, Lanao del Sur, Lanao del Norte, North Cotabato, Sibugay, Your Honor. Sent and represent royal houses in different parts of Mindanao.
To thank your participation, Senate, value your votes in.
Who sponsored the draft BB honor, and particularly chairman of the local government. And please consider our presence as our appreciation of sponsoring that by your honor.
Inputs will be, so if we could be
Permission if amended.
the amended, rather, your proposed amended Section 9, Article 9, that Section 19 proposes. Have you before? And if so, BL.
Correct in saying that we really be meticulous about very important thing, because initially, Mr. Chair, we were all that the BBL submitted to the Congress is the had not the opportunity to have
Of this, that it is imperative for the success of the Bangsamoro government the opportunity to be part of what will be the. Thank you again, Sultan Attorney Pelandog. Is there anything else you'd like to add?
Thank you, sir. Just a last statement. We appeal to be included.
Governance. Thank you again, Sultan Attorney. Anything else you'd like to add?
Thank you, sir. Just a last statement. In that provision, Your Honor.
Of Muslim.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Our very
Thank you again, Sultan. Consultation. The I have a note here that Abraham Ijirani of the Sulu Sultanate would like to. I have a note here of the Sulu Sultanate would like this point that we are making right now, Mr.
Yes, Your Honor. I'd like to respond and that they would conduct joint caravan for peace in the. Fortunately, second series of meeting with the Philippine Peace Panel headed by then Chairman Liu, the Sultanate of Sulu, while conducting a caravan of peace in Sulu, the party of the President and the MILF were already in Tokyo discussing about the peace talks. Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you, Mr. Jirani. I mean, I think it is clearer and clearer that the royal to give his presentation. Adam, are you ready with your presentation for the committee?
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning to all honorables, all the royalties we have here today. For the record, our possession paper will be delivered by my wife, the President and the CEO of the Maharaja Tabunaway Descendant Council of the Philippines. As the direct kin descendants of the Raja Tabunaway, I give the full authority to Her Royal Highness Potri by Marieta Nur Aisa Mindalano Adam Al-Hajja to represent the Royal House of Maharaja Tabunaway. Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you, Datu. We now call on Her Royal Highness of NC Tabunaway.
Thank you so much, Your Honors. Honorable members on the local government, Chair Bongbong Marcos, representatives from delegates from different royal houses, datos from the royal houses in Mindanao, the royal
the Sultanates, what function have in your as you conceive it? Of Mandanawe, Datu Uma.
Yeah.
Where are you?
Yeah,
I'm sorry. Okay.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. development programs at Bravo Gold, Cebu, and the rank on the Sultanate conducted a series of peace dialogue in Danau, Manila of living together, supporting the peace process. The recent activity that the Sultanate had participated was the conduct of the first Bangsamoro Royal Houses Solidarity Conference held at Waterfront Insular Hotel, Davao City on April 12, 2015. Position in Philippine independence came and the American colonized the Philippines chose a form of government. Perhaps this is just the basis of organization similar to our chosen neighbors Brunei and Malaysia. By the time of independence, the Moro royalty had diminished, especially and indeed, final appeals are made to the Sultan regarding religious matters and regarding religious and rules equally, if not more, good properties, court artifacts. The Moro family and law felt and suffered the brutal phase of war, and we lost many loved ones. My late father, Sultan Abdulaziz Giwan Mastura Kudarate, was once whispered by his anti-Datu, or that the MLF is led by member of the MLF panel, the lawyer Dato Michael Mastura, who is present now, a nephew of addresses determining a framework of full and meaningful autonomy. Aware that in the current debates on the BBL is a clamor to change its provisions. We oppose who would change the BBL so that instead of adding to our improving our current autonomy under the arm, it is instead being reduced. That the requirements of the BBL drafts the Article 6, Section 5 of the BBL draft. The Council of Elders would like to suggest and recommend that the major historic sultanates and principalities will be included there and mentioned in that provision by its historic names, meaning the Sultanate of Maguindanao, the major historics, together with representatives. Article 8, Section 2 of the BBL draft, on the draft to create or at least provide for funding for historical, cultural, and heritage body that will take care of the historic
questions that you have made to the draft BBL are starting with the mention of the historic sultanate, specifically in Article 6, Section 5, in which has to do with the Council of Leaders. And that the royal houses and the sultanates be specifically named as secretaries. Question:
the sultanate and the royal of the sultanate.
Very well. Just and for the creation of a choosing of the again for the creation of a body. I will ask the same question. Is this? Have you made these proposals to anyone at any time regarding the proposals to the draft BBL?
We have submitted in the Congress.
Question ninyong lahat?
Yes.
Kayo na konsulta. Kayo ba doon sa naging representative na sa ng Bangsamoro, actually galing lahat.
This is within the of the
court that suggest
we we have a letter addressed to UPAP, and then with the a letter addressed to UPAP, and then with the Sultanate of Maguindanao is the customary practices in
practiced over hundreds of years.
Yeah.
And sumulat nabanggit nakatanggap ng sagot doon sa sulat ninyo.
Hindi.
So
kasi,
wala
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much.
Okay.
Thank you very much, Haji. Very much.
Okay.
Thank you very much. And the President.
Let me take questions just to clarify from OPAP. And I think these are questions that members of the Royal House would like to also hear. As many know, some of those in the Royal House, Sultan Kiram also is of residence. Sultan Kiram also is of residence in Sinyu, that quantity. And I'm getting used to debating with you, and I'm very happy that you answer very frankly and forthrightly. And I think we'll be able to get somewhere. Without overstepping your authority, but to your knowledge, sir, and the instructions given to the OPAP, what is the official Philippine position to the claim of the Philippines to the North Borneo Sabah?
First, I'd like to desegregate the two issues. The International Court of Justice, there is supposed to be a Court of Justice, and that there is supposed to be
to support the Kiram family with the Royal House and to aggressively pursue the claim in the United Nations?
From the meetings that was done, that a committee was organized to
We wavered, and have we changed?
what I know from the meeting that a committee is to study the claim with vision that that the claim has not been abandoned, but it has to be studied. Mostly because up to the proprietary claim of the Sultan pursuant to the McCaskey ruling of 1969.
I think the proprietary claim is very clear because Malaysia continues to pay rent, of course, at a very obsolete rate. And, of course, among the royal family, there has to have some to sort out the claim. But as far as ownership of North Borneo Sabah, clear, no? But I am sort of surprised if we're saying now that the Philippines is studying our stand because Manila 3 of statement, and in all of this accord, it was made very clear to both Indonesia and the Philippines will Asian Federation is subject to the suddenly we're studying it. That our relations with Malaysia. Of course, there are brothers, there are blood ties. They're not our enemies, no. We live in a global village, no. They're not our enemies, no. We live in a global village. Cannot be viewed as two separate issues because the sponsor of the MILF is the Malaysians and the mediators are the Malaysians. And under the Malaysia Sultanate of struggle in Mindanao, well, you are allies. MILF and certain groups in Malaysia have been allies. In fact, it has been Malaysian groups that have asked agree with the Tripoli agreement and to form the MILF. No, so my point, sir, is there any guarantee to the royal houses? So my guarantee to the royal houses and to the
very recently the matter of the claim very recently the matter of the
Sultan election after the plebiscite, power is handed to the MILF. They will be appointed. They will be the majority. No, what will be our appeal to the United Nations if the MILF says we're not pursuing it and the Philippine
Federation of Malaysia, the Co-World Committee? The idea being was to sit in Sabah to determine whether the people of Sabah there were two questions. First question, whether they want to be independent before federation or to automatically be federated. The result of that plebiscite was to be independent. That is why Sabah became unilaterally an independent nation before federation in August 31, 1963, before the federation came into effect in September 16, pursuant to the 20-point agreement. So I don't believe that could easily be just be decided by the BT. For one, the BT
ceded they held a lease, that they ceded the rights, despite the fact that they only held a lease, they ceded the rights of ownership to the then newly organized Malay Federation. And that is where the organized Malay Federation, the problem arises.
Create the people who will vote is not only the people of that area, but all of them affected. So people of that area too. The BBL has opt-in provisions, meaning even after years of a certain territory, they are asked again, do you want to return? BBL has opt-in provisions, meaning even after years of a territory, they are asked again, do you want to return Philippine passports? If we're not Philippine passports, what happens now if someone from Sabas, I am a Bangsamoro because I was under Section 2 with a piecemeal, so, state of Sulu is written in blood. And this, but similar views, no? In fact, some were offended by being called a Moro or a Bangsamoro and saying we're Tausugs, and there are other ancient names, and even before the Philippine archipelago was recognized, the Sulu archipelago has already been agreement to be so inclusive. Family would, the spokesman would like to respond. This, may I ask, Mr. Chairman, that this be the opportunity also to air their gripes, because government is doing, and whether you do see a problem with the Malaysian government being the mediator with the BBL, because of course they will insist rather than us. Problem with the Malaysian government being mediator with the BBL, because of course they will insist that they will be part rather than us. But we're looking for unity, no, rather than divisiveness. Thank you, Mr. Chair, for this opportunity.
Yusek Lorena, I think
Thank you, Kuyang, for this opportunity to answer that. First, the Sabah claim with the Philippines was initiated upon the approval of a joint resolution by the House and the Senate. And therefore, endorsed a resolution from the Senate to authorize the Philippine President, where in this particular case, to withdraw the claim. That's one. The second point that I would like to the issue has not yet been resolved. There is a petition in the ICJ. The plebiscite should be confined within the territorial autonomy, precisely as my Kuyang said. It is prescribed by Article 10 of the Constitution that in the matter of regional autonomy, the plebiscite, the law will become effective only if the plebiscite is conducted in the area of autonomy. And there was no mention that there was a need to call for a plebiscite in other parts of the country. So that is precise. Secondly, I'd like to disabuse the mind that the proprietary on a legal stator of the property of the Sultan in North Borneo. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, just before to the Sultanate, do you see our point? The more groups we have here, the more groups are saying, ba't hindi mo kami sinama sa usapan? No, the more, and we're talking only of the Muslim groups. What about the Christian groups in Mindanao? And during the time of Chairman Nur Miswari, the President Ramos, was able to craft, no, a development body border, no, and that's what we want to Mindanao, that more quietly, like former Representative Mastura, who knows people in all sides, who can tell us what's really happening. No, I won't ask them to speak in the open because some of us, the President
abandons the in the that abandon many provisions that would seem to indicate that it would our Sabah claim. But, but the time is running very, very quickly. I would like now to turn to the Sultanate of Sulu Archipelago. Sultan.
Ala Ashrafil Anbiya wal Mursalin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajmain wa ba'd. Honorable Senator Marcos and Honorable Senator Cayetano, and also my respect to my uncle Sultan Ismail Kiram, represented by my uncle Pubbal Kiram, and also my uncle Ibrahim Kiram. Bajin, si Ibrahim Bajin, yes. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi ta'ala wabarakatuh. I am Datu Ildon Kiram, the brother of His Majesty Sultan Muizul Lail Kiram, the 35th legitimate Sultan of Sulu, the son of the late Sultan Mahakutta Kiram, officially recognized by the state to the memorandum order of the late President Marcos, and the son also of the late Sultan Ismail Kiram, who is the one ceded the sovereign rights of the North Borneo to the Philippine government. Office of the Sultan, rights of the Office of the Sultan of Sulu on the proposed Communique of the Sultan of Sulu on the proposed Bangsamoro the Constitution. Our people has signed so many agreements in the past and up to these years. Mindanao leaders continue asserting their political status. Our people has signed so many agreements in the past and up till such and agreements, changing masters. The most depressing fact of our people, the most depressing fact is none of these agreementless negotiations, all this ended as fractured peace. The long run will weaken their assertion of their political and human rights under the modern peace facilitator called the conflict transformation. Let the Senate of the Congress of the Transformation Archipelago expressing a version on how the is being inducted upon our people and our dominion, crafting of the basic law without respect of the historical prerogatives. Let the Senate and the Congress of the Philippines knows that Bangsa Sub, the people of Sulu, is not a tribe, but a sovereign nation. Population in the island provinces of Sulu, Basilan, Tawi-Tawi are not happy and not hopeful of the BBL, as adversely proclaimed by the government and the MILF instrumentalities. My presence today in this said significant hearing should provide better understanding and redirection of Senate outlook in order for them to arrive at appropriate political solution for Mindanao and its peoples. What we unveil today are facts long denied, deep conspiracies of those who oppose peace and prosperity of this nation, and those hypocrites Filipino historians who deny historical truth. Let it be sensible to our knowledge that they are not only the people of Sulu, Basilan, Tawi-Tawi, who should be involved in decision and consensus building. We have a population in the North Borneo, close to 1 million people. 80% of those are Tausug, and there has been no government regard over them. Whereas the Sulu Sultanate is contemplating on a vertical resolution of the question over the Sabah Archipelago, and in the midst of this temporal solution to peace, I, the 35th Sultan of Sulu, recommend the following. First, the Philippine Congress to extend their time frame to complete the consultation process at a distance from the dictate of the comprehensive agreement. Let our people in the North Borneo be given their constitutional rights and prerogative of democratic consultation and information. Second, let there be no transition after the enactment of this law if BBL is indeed established for the people and democratically, not for the interests and power of the few. Let there be a page for the recognition of the Sulu Sultanate in the language and provision of the basic law. If and when the government, despite the aim of its Congress and the Supreme Court is constrained to establish meaningful autonomy due to extreme ethnic divergence between the people of the mainland Mindanao and the island provinces, let there be two autonomous entities, one for mainland Mindanao and the other for the island provinces of Sulu, Basilan, and Tawi-Tawi. On this occasion, therefore, I and my people wish to congratulate your Honorable Senator Ferdinand Marcos Jr. and the noble House of the Philippine Senate for having a decisive political character by way of giving significance to our words and presence before this Senate hearing. Our kingdom cannot help venerate the good side of the legacy of the late President Ferdinand Marcos, may his soul rest in peace, that he became one of those enriching the history of our people and homeland. Finally, the Sulu Sultanate expressed its deepest gratitude to the Malaysian government for brokering the peace process and providing humanity and home to our people residing in Sabah, Malaysia. Wabillahi taufiq, wassalamu alaikum warahmatullahi ta'ala wabarakatuh. For the noble people of the Sultanate of Sulu and North Borneo, His Majesty Sultan Mu'izul Lail Kiram, 35th Sultan of Sulu Archipelago. And we still have to add some statement that with regards to Wali, per observation regarding the Wali, the provision then is, I think we might be unconstitutional pag sinama yan. It's because the provision, the previous president and its constitution officially recognizes titular head and the Sultanate of Sulu. Andun sa constitution na yan. But during the presidency of Macapagal, Diosdado Macapagal, our grandfather, the late Sultan Ismail Kiram, was recognized as the Sultan of Sulu, and even he ceded the sovereign right of the North Borneo to Macapagal. And na-inherit po yun ni Pangulong Ferdinand E. Marcos. So, months after the death of Sultan Ismail Kiram, his son, our father, the late Sultan Mahakutta Kiram, was officially recognized by the Philippine government through Memorandum Order 427 by the President Marcos, Ferdinand E. Marcos. So, that was the last recognized Sultan, official. Maraming rin na-recognize, but it could not be officially, is because pagpasok ng 1987, nawala na po yung pagtanaw ng utang na loob ng Philippine government sa Sulu Archipelago o Sulu Sultanate. Our history could not be started, basahin, if we will not start with the Sultanato ng Sulu government. Bakit inalis ang recognition? Only the Philippine government hindi nagre-recognize sa monarchy. I don't know. Even the history of the world history could not be started without mentioning the ancient civilization. Ganun din po ang sitwasyon ng Sultanato ng Sulu. During the civil society organization, during the focus group discussion at the Notre Dame of Holo College, I attended as a civil society, not as the brother of the Sultan, but as a civil society, coming from different organization. Ano ang sabi namin? Ano ang wali? Ang sabi po sa tao sa PBL, mayroon din kaming Sultan. Di na natin pag-usapan yan. Bakit di natin pag-usapan yon? So talagang inaalis yung Sulu. Inaalis nila. So bakit ganun? So sinabi namin, baka hindi kayo makakarating sa paroroonan nyo. Kung hindi nyo, tatanawin din ang utang na loob. Kikilalanin kung anong ba, saan tayo nanggaling. Bakit nagkaroon na claims tayo lahat sa Mindanao? It's because we are independent long ago. 13th century, 14th century. Pero may narinig ako is because ang gusto nila ipapasok ang 16th century. Pag 16th century, kasama na agad ang mainland Mindanao. Kaya, at saka sabi sa amin, basahin niyo yan para matuto. Bakit? Hindi naman yan ang gusto namin, ayaw namin yan. Kung pwede, sa inyo na, pumunta kayo sa Mindanao, sa inyo na lang. Nandito kami sa Sulu Archipelago, kanya-kanya na lang tayo. Wabillahi wa taufiq, wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you, Datu Ildon Kiram. Thank you, Sultan Meodzul Lail Kiram, for that statement. The suggestion has been made, and then we had heard it when we were in Hulo, that since the MILF are dominant in maybe Maguindanao and parts of Lanao, that be made the one of the autonomous regions. But since the Sultanate of Sulu is the overarching authority, a local authority in the Sultanate of Sulu and North Borneo, that another autonomous region be organized for them. That was, in fact, the original conception of the Tripoli Agreement, and that is why it was important that the government then recognized then Sultan Kiram, the 34th Sultan, as the proper head of the Sultanate of Sulu. Again, the recognition not only of the royal houses, not only of the Sultanate of Sulu Archipelago, is again a point that you have brought up, and it is something that clearly is important to all the royal houses, and for good reason, because the history of the royal houses extends far beyond the history of the Republic, far beyond the history of all the nations that have been included in the discussion of, for example, the claim on Sabah and the claim on North Borneo. And with that, I speak of the countries such as the UK, such as the US. These did not exist as states. And the Sultanate of Sulu and other royal houses had already been in existence and had already been providing governance. In fact, it is recorded that the first democratic institutions in this part of the world came from the royal houses of in Muslim Mindanao, to include North Borneo. So we thank Datu Kiram and the Sultan also for their participation in this. Certainly, we will continue to include all of the suggestions that you have made in our discussions. I would just like to make a request, if we could have a hard copy of any kind. Is this it? The suggestions that you have made in our of the president. Right. Thank you very much. Crown Prince of the Royal House of Patikul Sulu, Datu Shakiruddin
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Because we have been denied of our physical representations in all meetings of both the national and the local government regarding the Sultanate and its implication to the right over the territory of Sabah. Firstly, Your Honor, I would like to elucidate to you the relationship of the Sultanate of only for were of the same ancestry, in fact held on, son of the Tuboyong Bajin. Here at my right is the youngest offspring of the late General Abrin I of Patikul. Now, to give the background, it was the Makaske judgment that divided the royal family's vision of how to approach the problem. In fact, the recent development has shown that the cropping up of several royalties basically was for two. for material considerations, specifically for being interested in the share over the remittance of the American. We do not use the word collaborate, but agree with the American. With working out for the mass presentation of the different views of the Sultanate of Sulu, and so we are here, Your Honor. Now, to become redundant, all those because we have different of Sulu, and so we are here, Your Honor. The question as to, when you look at the BBL, although we were not given the complete copy of the BBL, because, Your Honor, it's too hard even to an internet in Sulu. All communicate, when you look at the BBL, although we were not given the complete BBL, because, Your Honor, even to whenever the militants, the lowest elements. So we were not sample chance to our hand the complete lowest of getting in from Sulu branches that represent the particular royal clan, composed of the Bajin and the Jainal Aberin clan. The present Sultan of Sulu is the one actually and physically exercising all the Sultanate's authority in Sulu. Now, needless to mention as to other claimants, but the acknowledgement of my of those who are counted to be members of the royalty. Your Honor, we the Taosogs actually have the feeling that our land is taken from us from the northeast. Another land is taken from the southwest. I don't have to mention the takers of our land. Understandably, we do not belong, as illustrated by my grandson there, we do not belong to the Philippine Republic. We were never consulted, even in the including Sulu into the political structure of the Philippine Republic. But anyway, we are already apart, and we never have presented our rejection of the programs conducted by the government for our people in the province of Sulu. And we never have voiced out of proper decorum or objection to the other relatives. Why not include us in the claim over Sabah? Because we are ashamed to be seen by other. We have felt Secretary General of the in 1975. Going back to my own topic, that is why, Your Honor, that the solution presented by the present administration on the problem of the PL was corrupted. By the present administration on the problem of the PL, the BBL, was corrupted. Conflict of interest should not be a part in adopting any law that those who have conflict of interest should not be a part. The question that why, before the MNLF resulted to the signing of the peace treaty, the Tripoli Agreement, if we are serious in finding peace in Mindanao and Sulu, we have to base on the collateral damage, as mentioned a while ago by His Honor, was it Senator Cayetano or the other Senator Escudero. But it's more numerical. It Senator. Firstly, if you want to attain peace, the one that you should first are those who have inflicted more damage to the Philippine entity. But we were denied of such opportunity. And now, the approach is on the MILF. Frankly, I can say with a candor that we don't have any grievances against the MILF, Your Honor. Because we were once before We were only one during your father's time, but eventually we became two. Now we know their aspirations, but we don't accept the fact that because they were given that aspirations, the people of Sulu shall be victimized by such by such approach. That is why, Your Excellency, even in the Organic Act of 1954, was it, USEC? No, the previous, the Organic Act. The Organic Act. Yes. The making of, the passing of the Organic Act in the House of Congress was unilaterally done, despite the peace agreement by the MNLF and the Philippine government with the participation of the Organization of Islamic Conference. But the passage of the Organic Act, which are imposed to us, was done unilaterally. Now, it is repeated now that with the drafting of the basic law, not mentioning the original draft submitted, which was totally scrapped by apparent in the investigation, there never was a representation from the people of Sulu, much less the Sultanate of Sulu. Now there are questions as to why the haste, Your Honor. What is only obvious is that this on the solution, so-called solution, excavating the natural resources in our land, depriving again the rights of our people to be heard. With the participation of Malaysia, whose interest is counterproductive to putting up the identity of the Sultanate of Sulu, is explained by their choice of supporting the MILF, who is far from Sabah, who is not in any manner connected with the Sabah issue. And to us, it is suspicious. With the BBL, Your Honor, we are not convinced that it would be an effective instrument in solving completely the peace and order situation in Hulu. We proposed that it should be reviewed thoroughly, and if possible, we pray that the interests of the people of Sulu, including the Sultanate, shall not be abandoned and abrogated. Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you very much, Dr. Bajin, for your remarks. We, of course, take the points that you have made. Once again, the lack of consultation with the sultanates and the royal houses in the process of coming to a peace agreement, which are embodied in the framework agreement and the comprehensive agreement, and finally in the drafting of the BBL is once again made very clear that none of the consultations included you. If ever there were inquiries, none of your suggestions have been incorporated into the draft BBL. The issue of the Sabah claim is central to these discussions. It is not something that is tangential or that is incidental to this discussion. It is central to this issue, and it is something that is why it is very important that we make very, very clear in the BBL that nothing in the Bangsamoro Basic Law will serve to weaken that claim. As I said, there have been many misgivings that have been expressed here and in other fora about that claim, and that how it will be handled should the formation of the Bangsamoro government be done strictly in adherence to the BBL, and that is something that we will have to study and that we will have to examine further. Furthermore, the presence of Malaysia as a facilitator, I think is the term that is being used, is one that many have questioned, because they are not a objective observer. They are a party in interest. And so that is why no one is quite clear how it is that they became the, shall we say, the one who is facilitating, or that is been putting together or putting the parties, the Philippine government and the MILF in this case, together, because again they have an agenda, and that is in the national interest of Malaysia, but may not be in the interest of the Republic of the Philippines or the claim that we have to North Borneo. Finally, the haste with which we are being encouraged to study this very important and complicated provision is something, again, that most of us fail to understand. It is a very important measure. It is going to define the lives of all Filipinos, not only Muslim Mindanao, not only those in Mindanao, but the entire country and every citizen in it. And that is why it may have been injudicious, to say the least, by OPAP to continue to encourage us to hurry. Not only OPAP, but the executive department, the palace, all of those who are saying, pass it now, pass it now, pass it now. We cannot understand what the hurry is about. The hurry, the haste with which it has been done is evidenced by the fact that some of the primary stakeholders in this entire discussion have never been consulted. And that is, again, a point that we take, and it is a point that we have chosen to remedy by asking you all to come here today. And so with that, that is the presentation. The presentation of Datu Bajin is, we are grateful for that. We would, should you choose to, in the future, put together a formal position paper and transmit it to the committee, that would be a most welcome. That would be a most welcome addition to our information and the discussions here in the Senate. So, with that, I think we have taken on as much as we can, time permitting, many of the comments that have been made, specifically to the sultanates and the royal houses of Muslim Mindanao. We are struck by the fact of that this is the first time that many of the opinions have been properly and formally expressed. That despite this has not been the result of their lack of willingness to participate, but apparently the lack of the government in this process to include them and to allow them to participate, despite all their entreaties that they be allowed to participate. So, with that, ladies and gentlemen, I think we have to just suspend for a while, and I think we can allow the representatives, the heads of the royal houses, we can allow them to as they are finished, that we can allow them to leave the chamber, should they choose to do so. After the short suspension, we will then try to cover as much of the IP issues that we would like. Yes,
very briefly.
Yes, very briefly, please, because it is already 2
very
o'clock,
briefly,
and we haven't yet talked to the IPs who also have some very important issues to raise with the committee.
Yes, it's an expression of thanks and gratitude in behalf of the Muslims in Mindanao, the royalties, and including commoners, if there is still such a thing. You know, Mr. Chairman, we do not have a voice in this House, in this chamber. There is no single Muslim senator, but because of your magnanimity and those of the other committees, I want to express this with your permission of vindication of our heritage, vindication of our pride and honor, because that accommodation, very few hours that you have given us, is even if we do not have a person elected in this chamber, we would be able to voice our sentiment, and that is important in a representative democracy. Lastly, Mr. Chairman, there is no mixing of, for example, laws and tradition at the national level. It cannot be done. That is a guide. It has to be done, and this is precisely what is cited in BVL as principle of subsidiarity. And I know you are familiar with this principle because you are the chairman of the Committee on Local Government. It is fit and proper. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Congressman. I am gladdened by the fact that I was able to give all of the representatives and the heads of the royal houses of Muslim Mindanao the opportunity that they have thus far not been given to speak on this extremely important issue, and for which we will need the support, first the understanding sultanates, and ultimately with their agreement way has that understanding and that support. And with that, I thank you all very much. I know many of you have come a very long way, and we appreciate your participation and the sacrifice made so that this was possible. We will have come a very long way, and we appreciate your participation and the sacrifices you have made. So
we run a school. That's why we're circulating. Where are you now?
I'm retired, Master.
Of course. You reside here?
I'm residing here.
Central office, but they're admitting that there are just 2 offices. So ang sinasabi nyo, sana kung ilan po ang LTO offices nyo in Metro Manila?
There are around 30, Your Honor. But the district offices that cater to for-hire registrations do not do initial private registrations, Your Honor. Magkahiwalay yan.
Yes. But when you go to the for-hire ngayon, meron na sila